30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and young guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Welcome into the George Plaster Show from the beautiful Fordyce Center in Bellevue. As you can see, we are not in our normal location inside the Fordyce Center. We are in the conference room today. We've got a big showcase tournament going on. The Elite Edge tournament, sponsored by BioSteel, starts tomorrow. All kinds of hockey talent out here, kids from all over the country, developmental showcase. So they're trying to get their game up for maybe some college scouts out here. So a lot going on here at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. And there's a lot going on the show today. We're talking a little college football, maybe a little College World Series as well with Mitch Light, senior college football editor for The Athletic. Does a great job. He just wrote a piece about the 8 teams, the field of 8 in Omaha. So we will talk a little College World Series, a little SEC football schedule release with Mitch as well. Obviously, stat of the day at 2:50, around that time, 2:55. Danny Evans at 3 o'clock, our Thursday weekly visit with Danny, talking a little baseball as well. A little rainy today here in Nashville as we get to our forecast, and I think the rain is just starting right now out in Murfreesboro as we check in with Kelly Holcomb, former NFL quarterback, of course, star MTSU quarterback as well. Kelly, you got a forecast for us?
You're absolutely right. It just started, and it's pouring down rain right now.
Oh my gosh.
I've got all these notifications on my phone and on my iPad of Danielle Breezy on Channel 2 that's telling me that there's lightning that's 11 miles away. So I'm getting all that as well. So
good thing you've got all the high-tech equipment you need right there for the Plaster Show.
I'm just amazed that y'all care this much about the weather. Crazy.
George would have an in-depth report ready right now. I'm not as in-depth as George, but I mean, it was raining earlier, and we got Kelly live from Murfreesboro as it's raining as well. But Kelly, we were talking earlier, you've got a fun event going on tomorrow. I know you may not be playing in the NFL alumni golf tournament tomorrow out in Franklin, but it dawned on me that you will probably be there. So is that a yearly thing that you guys try to do out there?
It is a yearly thing. We try to do it every year, and it's normally about this time of year. We've been having it at Gaylord Springs, but this year it's going to be in Franklin at the Towhee Country Club. So I'm looking forward to it. I've just now heard about that country club, that golf course, and I had a friend that played it and said it was really nice. So I'm looking forward to going out there, although I don't know if I'll be able to play tomorrow. But I talked to Al this morning, Al Smith, and he wanted me to come out anyway if I couldn't. So got to do some media stuff to get some interest in it. And then I did not realize that it was up on us right now. And I totally forgot to tell y'all and George about this, because it would have been a great time to go out there, but we might be able to still do it. I don't know.
We might have a little switch of plans potentially tomorrow. We'll keep you guys updated with the cool event going on out there. Kelly, do you try to play in a lot of tournaments? I know you probably don't have, a ton of time to do it, but are tournaments something that you try to play in when you can?
This time of year, you have all these scrambles, and I've probably played in 150 scrambles in my life, and I hate every one of them. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to be negative, but I just do not like scramble golf. Not? It's awful. I'm sure y'all like it. I mean, because y'all probably suck at golf.
Well, this is the elitist attitude from Kelly here.
I'm not being elitist. I mean, I don't suck at golf, but golf is not easy.
If in a scramble, they're probably playing your ball most of the time, no? I mean, that's not a bad thing.
I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't like scrambles, man. I played in too many of them. I don't like them. You do get to, through all the years, all the people that you play with thousands of people probably, and sometimes you get a really good group, and sometimes you get a not so good group. Sometimes you get guys that want to talk. Sometimes you get guys that have fun. I don't know. It's just it's kind of a chameleon effect. There's no question about that. But I just when you play golf, and I don't know. Just scrambles are just I don't like them. I don't like them. Now I play them. I mean, I have to play. I've already played one this year. I have to play. I may not play that one tomorrow. I don't know. I'll probably go. But and then I've got another one up here. I think the latter part of this month. So it's just I don't know. And you get people that pencil whip you too. You know, you shoot like 17 under, and then somebody shoots 20 under. I'm like, there's no way.
A little bit of cheating going on, I would guess.
Pencil pushing, dude. That's what they all do.
Yeah. Me and David don't typically play in any scrambles. I don't know about David, but I think I've played in a couple. But like you said, I like them because I'm out there having fun, and they're not playing my ball. So I don't get blamed for anything. So
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just not a big scramble guy. I played in so many my whole life. I played when the worst was when I was in Buffalo and I did Jim Kelly's, and it took us 7 hours to finish because right in the middle of the golf course, they've got 4 tents, and in every one of the tents, there's liquor. So everybody met up in the middle, and they would just stop. And it would take 20 minutes for them to get, and it literally took 7 hours.
That's not a good recipe for successful golf. I don't think that's just about the fellowship there. David, we've got an update today, as George would ask. I know we don't like we both suck at golf, so that's not
my golf swing isn't pretty. Might be prettier than George's though. But yes, we do have an update. Obviously, last night the SEC 2024 schedule was released. A lot of key storylines going on. Next year, Georgia versus Alabama in T-Town down there in Tuscaloosa, going to be the 5th regular season appearance between those two in the last 20 years.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me. What Georgia and Alabama never play. They never get together. I mean, I don't. What's up with that, Kelly?
It's always in the SEC championship game. The last years have been in the SEC championship game. And, it would have been the same thing last year if Alabama would have made it. But you would think that Alabama and Georgia would play more, but when they split those deals up, and they had an East and a West division, sometimes it makes it hard to get your schedule complete.
Yeah, and if you're Saban or Smart, typically, okay, we'll probably meet Georgia in the SEC title. Down the road, I don't know if they're big fans of scheduling each other in the regular season.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that. I would think they would, try to shy away from that whenever they could.
Yeah, but David, there's a lot of other kind of juicy matchups that we'll get to watch.
Yeah, we've joked about how easy Georgia's schedule is this year. Well, next year it won't be the case. They also have a trip to Austin to play Texas, so that'd be an interesting matchup. Got Texas versus Texas A&M. That'll be the 119th all-time meeting between those two schools. First since 2011, Billy. We got Tennessee taking on the road to go to Norman, Oklahoma.
I like that one.
Josh Heupel returning to his alma mater, so that'd be a nice little storyline. And then Alabama taking the trip to Norman as well. So a lot of good matchups.
That Oklahoma-Tennessee series, of course, Oklahoma has played Tennessee twice, I think, in the last 5 or 6 years. I know they got together for a home-and-home when Butch Jones was there, but watch out for that Tennessee-Norman trip. I mean, Oklahoma's obviously, they're not in the same position as Tennessee right now, but if Venables can get that rolling, that might be a little snake trap, maybe a little, snake pit for Tennessee. So we'll see about that. But again, Kelly, we're going to get into this more, especially with Mitch Light, who covers college football, but kind of talk about some of these matchups and dive deeper into Vandy and Tennessee. Vandy's got a tough home slate, but Kelly, it's tough for everybody. I mean, I saw a lot of talk on social media about why is our schedule so much tougher than this team's? You're in the SEC. I mean, and the new age of the SEC. It's not going to be. You're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, I like this schedule. This is easy." You're in the SEC.
Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy. The thing that gets me is this is not the coming up year, though. This is 2024.
Yeah.
So everybody's making such a fun.
Let's calm down.
I get it. I understand that, but like, when you start talking about that stuff, like we're forgetting about the upcoming season here. We've got still another season before we get to that. So it's crazy how the hype. I mean, if you turned it on the SEC network last night, they showed that for hours.
Yeah, it's all about 2024.
And that's
all about 2024, and you still got 2023 to play.
That's a fair point, Kelly. Just, with the transfer portal and roster turnover, you don't know whose roster is going to be good next year.
Right.
We talked about Florida, how they might not be very good this year. Well, you never know what next year might bring for them. Same with Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. So,
yeah. What we got next?
MLB news: Mets pitcher Drew Smith came in the bullpen Tuesday night and was ejected for the sticky substance.
The spider tack.
Yeah, he'll be suspended 10 games by Major League Baseball. He's the fifth pitcher to be ejected and suspended. Second by the Mets, obviously Max Scherzer, when they made the trip to Los Angeles. So
what are they putting in the water up with the Mets?
I don't know.
What was all that about yesterday? I saw that on ESPN. Like, what did he put on there that they're saying he used?
Drew Smith said it was just rosin and sweat, but the umpire checked his fingers as they do coming in from the bullpen. And they just said it was too sticky, and like their hands were sticking together.
So they just test for the sticky substance. They don't have.
They check the hand. They check the glove. Like they put their hand in the glove and they're just touching it all over.
Because that's my question, Kelly. How do they prove it? Right?
I don't know.
Is there any evidence that they
stayed out there forever yesterday on the mound, and then the dude throws him out, and then he's trying to plead his case, and then he goes back to the dugout, and he's still trying to plead his case. So I don't know what the deal is. Y'all weren't around. Do y'all know who Lester Hayes is?
I do not know who Lester Hayes is.
Of the Oakland Raiders back in the day, the Al Davis days. Hey, he had so much sticky stuff on his hands that it was dripping. He was a DB. He was a corner. And it was dripping off his hands because he couldn't catch.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's an advantage. I mean, that's why they're trying to outlaw it, because it especially for pitchers. I mean, you get a little bit more drop on that curve. You maybe a little bit more upward tilt on that fastball.
Yeah, it's all about the RPMs, but it's just interesting to see because we've seen numerous times umpires send them to the bathroom and just say, "Wash your hands, come back, and we'll check it again." Drew Smith got ejected coming in from the bullpen, didn't get the opportunity to go wash his hands. So
that's what I don't get. I mean, I think obviously.
Oh, did he not even pitch a pitch?
Never threw a single pitch.
Then how do they know that? Like what?
Check you coming in from the bullpen.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's wild.
Every pitcher, right?
So it's different between the starters and the relievers. The relievers, they check you coming in from the bullpen. Starters, I think they check you every 2 or 3 innings every now and then to see if you've added stuff. But just interesting storyline. I know Danny could probably hit on that better than we can.
We'll get into that with Danny.
U.S. Open getting underway out in the L.A. area at the Los Angeles Country Club. We get a leaderboard update. Ricky Fowler all alone in first place right now at 6 under through 13 holes. Xander Schauffele.
Fowler.
Ricky. That's good for him. He's been
Ricky Fowler.
He's kind of been laying in the weeds a little bit.
Never stay there though.
No.
Xander Schauffele all alone in second place at 5 under through 12. Ryan Fox all alone in third place as well. So, Billy, that's
Xander. I think Xander Schauffele's up there too. Hovland's a guy I really like, Kelly.
Scotty Scheffler up there.
Yeah, I like Victor Hovland's game, but I think for a lot of people, the golf world right now, it's tough to laser in on it just because with everything going on. I feel like there's more focus on the headlines, with Live and PGA as opposed to, hey, the U.S. Open's going on. Let's go watch that. And
is DeChambeau a Live guy?
He is.
He is.
Yep. He's at 1 under, so 10th place.
So there's a lot going on, of course, in the golf world. But again, if Ricky can win that, I'd be happy. I'd be glad. But it's tough.
That would be huge because he's done nothing the past decade.
Yeah. When's the last tournament he won? Not even major.
It's been a long time ago. And I like Ricky Fowler. I like some of the young guys, but it seems like they can't finish when it gets to the time that you have to finish. Like John Rahm did it. He did it at the Masters because Brooks Koepka was at him. Brooks Koepka did it, and he's done it 5 times now.
Yeah.
So he's – or is
as
it
a
6?
young guy, I'm not sure. But, I mean –
think it's 5.
Yeah. You talk about the young guys. Vanderbilt had a kid, what was his name? Gordon Sargent, who, of course, made it to the Masters. His first tee shot, I think, went like something like 340, 350 yards. But,
right.
You get closer to that hole and you're playing at the Masters. It's tough. Like you said, Kelly, it's tough to finish those when you don't have as much experience as the older guys. So obviously we'll keep track of the U.S. Open. But David, I know we got some NFL news.
Yeah, last piece of news, and it's once again DeAndre Hopkins. He's on a visit today with the New England Patriots, meeting with Bill Belichick and that offensive staff. Rumor came out from local media that the Titans have offered him a contract for the upcoming season, but Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reporting that Hopkins is willing to wait until training camp in August before making a decision. Fowler, quote, said, "I'm told that Hopkins is not in a major rush. He's looking at making a move in training camp. So it would have to be a sweet offer from New England for him to take the deal while he's up there."
Kelly, they're never in a major rush. I mean, I feel this happens every year with a few big-time players in the NFL. It takes all the way up to training camp. Heck, maybe even 2 or 3 weeks before the regular season, before they even know where they're playing. I mean, it happens every year.
I told you that the other day. That's the worst thing ever, especially when I came in the National Football League and it was 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to miss training camp. If I got a chance to miss training camp, I'm missing training camp. I can promise you that. I'm missing it. And that's what he's done so well for himself. He's a really good receiver. He's getting up there in age, but he can catch. He's got such a radius around his body. He can catch anything, and he's a great route runner. He's probably lost a little bit of speed, but man, I would sit out as much as I could. And
Kelly, I would much rather miss a Mike Vrabel training camp. I would not want to attend a Mike Vrabel coach training camp.
Absolutely. I'm sure he puts those guys through it.
Put them on the sled.
You're going back to your high school days in Fayetteville with running the hills and the sleds.
I'm out on that, man. And the worst, you know what the worst was in college? We had a really bad year for Coach Donnelly, and after practice, he made all of us tackle. And I'm a quarterback. We had to tackle. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Like, he made everybody do it because the defense was terrible.
He made you try to go out there and tackle.
Yeah, we had to go in positions. We had to go with our position coaches, and we had to butt up. We had to do form tackle. And I'm like, what are we doing?
That sounds like boots right there.
Are you surprised that the Titans have already offered him a contract? You know, he came and visited over the weekend. You're not?
I'm not surprised at all, because he would be an incredible addition just because he's that good of a receiver. Plus, he can help Treylon Burks, and he can help the Kune guy. He can help all those guys learn how to be professionals. That's why I would try to get him. And that's the intriguing thing for me that I think DeAndre Hopkins would do, because he's been a number one receiver. If you go to other places, you're just going to be a spoke in the wheel. But if you come here, you're probably going to be the number one receiver again. Plus, you can teach younger guys how to be a professional.
The good news for Titans fans right now is they've got a shot at DeAndre Hopkins. But the bad news, this is going to take forever. Like, we're not going to find anything out. Yeah, we're not going to find anything out for another 2 months probably. So buckle up, and you can go hibernate, Titans fans. Maybe go into a dark room and see if you get D-Hop after that. But coming up, Mitch Light, senior college football editor for The Athletic, does a great job, but he also has dipped into baseball a little bit. He wrote a great piece on The Athletic, 10 things you need to know about the 2023 field in the College World Series in Omaha. He's got a great knowledge of Wake Forest. So we're going to learn about the Demon Deacons this year and what has caused them to erupt this season. So talking a little college baseball, a little bit of college football as well. So stay tuned. Mitch Light from The Athletic coming right up here on the George Plaster Show.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
It's time to talk a little college baseball. I know we've been talking a lot about it, but this is one of the better Omaha fields that I've ever seen. That I call the bracket of death. The side with Tennessee, LSU, Stanford, Wake Forest. Whoever gets out of that side, good luck in the national title, because you're going to be beaten down. We'll also talk a little college football with Mitch Light, but senior college football editor for The Athletic, Mitch Light, checks in with us now on the George Plaster Show. Mitch, thanks for checking in. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing today, Billy?
Doing great. I saw your article, and it was great. 10 things you need to know about the 2023 field. Now, I'm not going to ask you to run through all 8 teams and give me, scattering reports on them. But in your research, what were some of the most interesting things you learned about these teams? Because there were a lot of creative stats and nuggets that maybe not a whole lot of people know heading into this field.
Well, yeah, thanks, Billy. And that's kind of like, as you know, my background's in college football. I'm just a college baseball fan, and I follow it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you whose pitching staff matches up better with whose hitters and all that stuff. But I'm intrigued in all sports by stats and trends. So I just kind of dove in and tried to figure out some interesting things about the field that would interest me as a reader. So one of them was like, I knew this to be the case, but when you really look how big of an impact the transfers have had in college baseball, and specifically on the mound, I went through in every 7 of the 8 teams have one starter, basically what we call a weekend starter, at least one weekend starter who transferred in. Most of them this past year, some were a couple years ago. Stanford is the only one. They have no, if I read their roster correctly, they have no transfers on their team, which was surprising, and give them credit in this era of quick roster building and quick fixes. So that's something that really surprised me. Obviously, we know about Paul Skeens at LSU. We know Tennessee, obviously with Chase Dollander, but Florida, Hurston Waldrop, who I thought you could say, Billy, in the first 2 weeks of the tournament, maybe the best pitcher out there. And I know Skeens was great against Tulane, had some great performances, but I watched most of that South Carolina game 2 the other day, and he was unhittable. And he was a guy that was at Southern Miss last year. So just think how good that Southern Miss pitching staff could have been if he didn't transfer. So going through, again, every team has Connolly Early, who pitched a complete game, I believe, for Virginia in its clinching win, was at Army last year. A really good Army program that's had 5 or 6 straight appearances in a regional. So, that's one thing. Another thing I noticed watching college baseball this year, and this is not rocket science, how many good players are from the state of Florida, but specifically the bats we see. And they're not all at Florida. Jack Caglione, Dylan Cruz, Cade Curlin, Florida's freshman second baseman, I believe, Wyatt Langford, Josh Rivera, Tommy White, Brock Wilkin at Wake Forest. I know we're going to talk about Wake Forest. And then Colby Shelton from Alabama, who didn't make the College World Series and is now in the transfer portal. He's from Florida as well. So a great year for Florida sluggers in a year where we're seeing a lot of home runs.
And it makes you wonder why Florida State has taken such a dip in that program with all the talent down there, especially at a lot of the JUCO schools. And I mean, there's so many schools in Florida. Before we talk about Tennessee and LSU, because I want to get your take on that one Saturday night, Wake Forest. You have a unique perspective. I think your son goes to Wake Forest, right? So, I'm sure you've been able to go up there, see them play. I don't know that there's ever been a college baseball team quite like this Wake Forest team, as dominant as they've been. And I think a lot of the talk heading into the tournament with Wake Forest was, well, can they hold up with some of the bigger dogs? The SEC teams. Well, Alabama came into Winston-Salem, and Wake Forest was able to knock them out. I think they put up a 20 spot in game 2. So, number one, can Wake Forest keep their offense rolling the way they have? Obviously, it's going to be tough. You're playing in Omaha. People compare it to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
But do you think they can carry over the domination, especially with the park they've played in? But they've also pitched well in that park. So the pitching plays a big role as well, as you know.
Yeah, they're legit. They are 100% legit. Florida might have the deepest overall roster, I think, but I think Wake Forest, when you look at their high-end talent combined with pitching, has the best team. And here's a stat that just blew me away. It did not end like this, but for most of the year, Wake Forest led the nation in ERA by a full run per game.
Yeah.
Just think about it. That's staggering. It's playing in a small park. They play a ton of home games, obviously. And they hit a lot of home runs. They're very, very deep. It's a program that I did a story on Wake Forest about a month ago. It's an interesting, just cut me off whenever you want, Billy, because I don't,
No, go ahead. I'm trying to learn about the Demon Deacons.
For a while. But I went and I sat down with the coaches and players. They were very honest. And, this is a program that's had some blitz of success, but nothing sustained. They were very honest. I called them a broken program. And 2 years ago, they had a terrible culture. Their head coach talked about their culture. They had a losing record. And basically, it was a post-COVID hangover. They had a lot of guys who were seniors on the team who really didn't want to be there. They didn't expect to be there. The draft was short, and they thought they'd get drafted. And they did a lot of team building. You could call it corny or cliche, but it all worked. They had a crop of freshmen who stayed together, and that group are now juniors and seniors. And they are legit. Rhett Lauder is one of the best pitchers in the country, if not the best pitcher in the country. Fascinating recruiting story about him because I cover recruiting college football, so I'm always asking coaches about recruiting. Talked to the recruiting coordinator. He was down in Atlanta at one of the big AAU tournaments, and this is going to Lauder's senior year, which is like very late for baseball recruiting. And there was a rain delay, so he wanted to go to get lunch. He wanted to go to Panera. It was too crowded. He wanted to go Tropical Cafe or whatever. I think it was too crowded. So he went to Longhorn Steakhouse. He goes in there. He runs into an AAU or travel ball coach from North Carolina he knows. He sounds like a gruff old guy. After the guy walks by his table and he goes, Rhett Lauder. He's like, yeah, we've seen him. He's okay. He goes, Rhett Lauder, if you don't take him, I'm never sending another player to Wake Forest. At that point, he had offers from App State and UNC Wilmington. They took a closer look at Rhett Lauder. They took him. Now he's 15-0, I think, with a sub-3 ERA. So you never know where you're going to find your elite players. So to sum it up, yeah, this is, can I sit here and say they're going to win it all? We all know the history of number one seeds, but I think they are super legit.
That's what a story. That's awesome. I mean, 15-0. That doesn't happen. I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of good pitchers here in Nashville with Vanderbilt, but 15-0, that's impressive with a 1.5 ERA. What is it, 1.3? I think you said
something like that. You mentioned Vanderbilt there. This team, not necessarily just the team, but to some degree, it reminds me of what happened around Vanderbilt in 2007. That first really, really good team. Because Wake Forest, again, they've got some baseball history. They have much richer baseball history than Vanderbilt did pre-Corbin. Yeah. But, I was at a game earlier this year, and the team was good. It was a little chilly. Wasn't a lot of people there. But slowly, as people realized how good, people started. There was a buzz around town once it's on the attendance. You saw that all the attendance numbers they broke this weekend. And I talked to some of the younger media members who I know there just from being around. And I said, just watch this. As your clicks, your views, you're going to get so much more attention as this fan base realizes how cool college baseball is. And they're going to latch on to this team. And that's happened. Now, hopefully, they've already done more than that 2007 Vanderbilt team, which we know didn't get out of the regional. But I've compared it to Vanderbilt baseball about 15 years ago.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, the crowds have been great up there in Winston-Salem. So hopefully, their fan base is able to travel. I got one more for you before I give it over to Kelly. Tennessee and LSU Saturday night. Of course, that is after the Wake Forest Stanford game. And for Tennessee, I look at the pitching matchup because I think this is big. Paul Skeens is going for LSU, their big dog. That's their horse, right? For Tennessee, obviously we've seen what Chase Burns has done, but do you go Dolander or do you go Lindsey? Does that matter? Right? Because you've got to win game one, Mitch. You've got to win game one. So it's tough for me to sit there, and especially for Tennessee fans, to have a whole lot of confidence with Lindsey going against those LSU bats. So what do you think there? Does the matchup matter in game one?
It's fascinating because you never a regional is different because if you're the host and you're the best team, You can afford to lose because you think you got more pitching you can get through. Once you get to the College World Series, everyone's great. So you never want to concede a game. And I'm not saying Tennessee would come close to doing that if they did not throw Dollander. Lindsey's been more consistent probably. You Vols fans can correct me if I'm wrong, but we know that Dollander at his best is better and gives him a better chance to win. I would throw Chase Dollander. I think he gives you the opportunity to silence those bats. Maybe you get a bloop and a blast against Skeens and you're up 2-0 and the pressure starts to mount. So I would go with my best in game 1 of the College World Series. One good thing about Tennessee, they have options. And then also going Dollander earlier, I know it's more compressed now starting last year than it's been, whereas the College World Series, you used to be able to get 3 starts out of your ace if you positioned it right and didn't overuse them. You can't really do that anymore, but it allows you to bring Dollander back earlier than maybe bring him out of the pen in a potential game 3 of a College World Series final.
That'll be fun. I mean, it's do or die in that game 1. I know there have been teams in the past that have been able to pull out of that loser's bracket, but it's tough. It's really tough. Mitch Light, senior college football editor for The Athletic, joining us here on the Plaster Show. Kelly, what you got? I know we still got a lot of football questions out there, but fire away for Mitch.
Mitch, how you doing, man? Kelly Holcomb.
Hey, doing great.
Yeah, I enjoy baseball. I enjoy talking baseball, but let's talk a little football.
Okay.
And I heard you talk about recruiting. Okay, so when I came out of high school, it was the dinosaur days. I mean, I understand that. I get it. It was back in 1990. How has the college game changed in recruiting? And from some of the guys that are in it that I know talk about how cutthroat it has become. How much has it changed over the years?
Well, it's obviously in the past 2 or 3 years. I don't think we've seen a sport go through a bigger change from a recruiting standpoint in the last 2 or 3 years with NIL. The biggest difference to me is, there's so many differences. And I'm actually editing a story. You guys probably remember Tony Sacca, who played at Penn State.
I played against Tony. Tony, here's the deal. This is really funny. Tony Sacca, he went with me to the Barcelona Dragons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we played in the World League of American Football, and he was my backup over there, Tony Sacca. That's
okay.
Funny.
So I am recruiting. I'm working on editing, literally put it down to talk to you guys. His son, Anthony, is a 4-star linebacker recruit in the class of 25 from outside of Philadelphia. It goes to St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia. And Tony in the story is talking about his recruitment, and I'm sure you went through this. It was basically his senior year. He started going on his recruitment visits during his senior year. His son is a junior, and it's why haven't you decided yet? His son's already seen 6 to 8 big time schools. He's going out to USC soon. So it's it's just it's not like baseball has become where freshmen and 8th graders are committing, but the process is so much more spread out. And I mean, we could go so many different ways in this, Kelly, but it puts a great strain on coaches, and no one's going to cry for these coaches that make a lot of money. But I mean, we're talking June right now. These coaches, all month of June, they're hosting kids every day, official visitors. Back then, 15, 20 years ago, if you had a commitment before August, you were ahead of the game. So it's changed so much, but nothing has changed it more than NIL.
Yeah. What are your, and I know, hopefully people don't get upset because I ask, I'm going to ask a lot of the same questions that I asked yesterday because we had the same type guy on, but what are your thoughts about the NIL? I mean, is it here to stay? We think the transfer portal, I understand. I remember being in college and I can remember us getting some transfers, but now the guys are transferring everywhere, and it nobody wants to compete for anything. And if I'm behind somebody and I feel like the coaches are not giving me an opportunity, then I'm going to enter the portal. And there's a lot of guys that shouldn't do that, because if you don't have film out there, you better stay away from the transfer portal because you're going to get left outside.
Yeah. Well, I think NIL's here to stay. My view is probably similar to a lot of people you guys talk to. I have no problem with these guys getting money. They make tons of money for the schools. I don't like the pay for play part of it. I always use Hendon Hooker as a perfect example. He did so much for that university. He made so much money for that university. So once he's there, once he's already proven to be a really good player, if he wants to go do a spot for a car dealership and get X thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's great. I don't like the pay for play again, the part where guys are getting, that's not really the intent of it. And that's where I hope there could be some some legislation to fix that. I'm not optimistic that will happen. And I'm with you on the transfer, not to sound too old school. I thought there was nothing wrong with having guys sit out. I mean, you can grow a lot as not to be a cliche, as a young man sitting out. That's not That's not going to change. That's here to stay. So it's added another dynamic, and it makes roster building so difficult for these teams nowadays.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So, Coach Donnelly, we had talked about this for years. Some of my old coaches and he told me this 20 years ago, that the NCAA at some point, these big schools that are making all this money are probably going to boot the NCAA, and they're going to go to 5 big conferences. I've heard maybe one big one big conference where you have, the top 64 teams or something like that. So where do you see this thing going in college football?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've got others on our staff that follow this a lot closer than I do and actually, talk to people and report on it more. But I kind of, I follow it just like everyone else. I think that's where we're heading. I don't know if that's 5-10 years, but the money difference is so great. Like, it's just ridiculous that University of Alabama and Akron are playing for the same championship. Like, they're both in FBS football. And I know there's always been the haves and the have-nots. I'm not saying that's the case, but the gap is wider than ever. The agendas are wider than ever. And they're just the schools. It's, we're seeing it some within conferences too, but it's really the lower end of the FBS versus the mid to high tier Power 5 schools. They're playing a different sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they end up going to that, like, what does my alma mater do, Middle, or what does a Troy do, or what does a Western Carolina or teams like that? Do we see football just going away? Because I've argued this too, and I'll get your thoughts on this. But if you look at the statistics, Mitch, mommy's not wanting little Johnny to play much anymore. And I brought this up like 2 months ago, and there was a statistic out that showed that high school kids, it's like 100,000 the last 10 years that are not playing. So I think those numbers are going to keep dwindling down. So where does football go? Because I'm worried about the game.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's even more pronounced on the West Coast. Like, is Lincoln Riley worried about it? No, because he's not going to be at USC long enough. But there are fewer elite prospects in the West Coast state of California than there have ever been. And I'm telling you, just look at the number. They're not producing the big boys, the linemen on both sides of the line. That's why USC is having trouble recruiting at a high level, because there's not the homegrown linemen. But to specifically answer your question, I think we could see the lower half, or the quote unquote have-nots of Power 5 form what you played in 1AA. We're competing for their own championship. Now, then, do some of the current FCS schools merge up with them? Some of those really the Dakotas that are always successful. Right. I could see basically what we had 20 years ago when we had 110 Division 1A, then you had Division 1AA. Maybe there's 65 Division 1A teams or FBS teams, and then the rest of those teams form their own and compete for a championship.
Gotcha. So in the SEC, let's get to the SEC. I know there's been years of this, but since I'm a quarterback, I always talk quarterbacks. Has there been this much turnover that you can remember? You got the Bryce Youngs, you got the Will Levises, you got Hendon Hookers, you got all those guys graduating. You got Joe Milton that's coming back for Tennessee. They got a young guy, but have you ever seen so much turnover with some big name quarterbacks like they've had?
It seems to be cyclical. I can't remember. I was at Athlon Sports for 18 years and doing the previews, and I remember one year where we literally could not find a third-team All-SEC quarterback for the preseason because there weren't like 3 returning starters. I can't remember what year it was specifically, but they just seem to turn over in bunches. So yeah, that's what makes this year so intriguing. And yes, clearly Georgia, but Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, the three best rosters in the country. Let's just be honest. Okay, maybe you throw LSU in there, but those are the 3 best rosters in the country. They all have first-year starting quarterbacks. And we know Alabama wasn't in love with their quarterback situation because they went out and got the transfer from Notre Dame, who was their backup to Sam Hartman. And Ohio State has talent, no doubt about it, between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, but they're both new. Georgia, Carson Beck, we think he's going to be good. We've seen them win national championships without a 5-star quarterback, although Stetson Bennett was a great quarterback. So that's my long-winded way of saying this could be the year where someone comes up and sneaks a playoff appearance away from one of those teams because they're not getting the quarterback play they think they should be getting or that they've gotten years past.
I got you. So everybody's making a big hoorah about the 2024 schedule, and we got to play a 2023 season. I understand that everybody's looking forward to Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I know that the commissioner for the SEC had talked about we've got these guys coming in, and he would like to add a couple of more teams. Like he wants to get to 20 at some point. Where do you see that going? Do you see him going out and purging some other? They talked about the ACC, but if you leave the ACC, what do you got to pay? Like $135,000 or $135 million? Yeah. So it's like crazy. So that's probably not going to happen. But do you see them getting to 20 teams in the next 5 years?
I don't. And
okay.
I don't like the expansion. Again, I'm old school, call me whatever. Like, I don't know. And this is never going to happen. But my favorite league setup was the old ACC after Florida State joined. They had 9 teams. You played 8 conference games. You played 4 at home, 4 on the road. Everyone played everyone. And the same amount of home games, same amount of road games, and you had a true champion. But that's crazy. That's never going to happen again. Having 8 conference games in a 16-team league is absurd. No one's playing close to the same schedule. You can try and schedule it, balance, but we don't know. How's Missouri going to be in 2 years? How's Kentucky going to be in 2 years? Nobody knows down the road. So there was always that imbalance before, and it's more pronounced.
So that made me think of something right now. So do you see, like, if they go to this big, huge conference at some point, they're just going to play big time games and not even worry about like the group of 5 teams that they have to play for the group? I mean, do you see that happening at some point where they just play like an NFL schedule for 12 games?
Yeah, I think if it's 10 years down the road, whenever we get to that split, I think at that point you would see teams only playing each other.
Got you. So, last question: Who is Georgia? Is Georgia still the team to beat?
They've got to be. I don't want to contradict what I just said right there, but they have so much talent. They lost 15 first rounders 2 years ago. They came back and won the national championship. Yeah. They lost 9, I believe, this year. Now, I was at the Peach Bowl. If Ohio State kicks a 40 yard field goal or whatever it was, Georgia doesn't win that game. So It's a fine line. And Ohio State is going to be very, very good again. Ohio State's in the second year under Jim Knowles, a very good defensive coordinator who traditionally his units have kind of struggled early and they've gotten better. They've got really good talent. They've got some guys on the defensive line who are ready to emerge and become stars. So Ohio State, I can't call them a sleeper, but if it's a non-SEC team, I really like what Ohio State looks like this year.
Yeah, they're built like an SEC school, that's for sure. Well, Mitch, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I know Billy's probably wanting some more questions, or we might be running up against time, but I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No problem. Good talking to you.
I got one more here for you, Mitch, before we let you go. Vandy and Tennessee. Of course, schedule was released last night. Vanderbilt's home slate in 2024 is brutal. Alabama.
What do you got him at, 4-0 at home? Really?
Easy 8-0, Mitch. I think on the road they'll be fine too. But no, Bama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. The away slate, I tweeted this yesterday. I think there's 3 of those on the away side in 2024 that are winnable for Vanderbilt, Auburn, Kentucky, Missouri. Obviously not LSU on the road. So there's Vandy, and then you look at Tennessee. I think Tennessee got a good draw. I know you get Alabama at home, but Florida is down. Kentucky is Kentucky. Mississippi State obviously recovering after that awful passing of Mike Leach. Arkansas, Vandy, Oklahoma, and Georgia on the road. So taking a look at those 2 local schools, who got the better draw and who is set up to maybe keep building, maybe accelerate the process.
Yeah, and by the way, I apologize for the noise if you guys can hear the landscapers across the street. I cut my own lawn. I don't have landscapers do that. So I don't know if you can hear it, but
we gotta get that straight.
Yeah, it's pretty loud out around my bonus room. Now, I think Vanderbilt got the more difficult schedule, and not to be snide about it is like the problem that Vanderbilt has. It doesn't play Vanderbilt. And we think the team's getting better under Clark Lee. They won 2 conference games last year, but every fan base that sees Vanderbilt on its schedule chalks that up as a win. I'll agree with you about Vanderbilt. The quote unquote games they cannot win appear to be on the road in a couple years. Tennessee, I'm not going to sit here. It could have been worse. But I'll make the point I talked to Kelly. You don't know what teams are going to look like in 2 years. Let's say. Something happens in Kentucky and they fall. I'm not saying they will. They fall off, and they're they've been a top 20 program the last couple of years. Let's say they're a top 40 program. Then that's not a very difficult game. So that's what we do here in the off season. We analyze schedules 2 years down the road, but it's very difficult to sit here and say who's got the more difficult slate. But obviously Vanderbilt looks pretty tough.
Perfect timing. The SEC network knows how to tease their fans. I mean, they know everybody's going to be talking about this for the next week or so, and I love it. Football season. We're just 5 weeks away from media days, so again, it's crazy thinking about that. But Mitch, we'll let you go. Thanks again for taking the time today.
All right, good talking to you guys. Take care.
Mitch Light, senior college football editor for The Athletic. Coming up, we'll keep the football talk going. We'll dive into some of these schedules, maybe talk more about Vanderbilt and Tennessee's schedule, and maybe some of the games that Kelly is most excited about watching in 2024, even though that is a whole year away, which is still weird. But let's talk about the Music City Grand Prix before we go to the break. August 4th through the 6th. Again, I'm going to keep hammering this down. We've got a driver coming on the show next week. We will, of course, release that next week, who the driver is. But good stuff going on. Of course, it's coming up quick. Just a couple months away down in Nashville, and it's the only race that travels over the body of water, the Cumberland River. So it's going to be a sight to see. Was not able to go last year. George is going this year. I'm going to try to find a way. David's a race fan. We'll try to get David out there as well. Maybe Kelly will join us as well, but we want to see you there. Music City Grand Prix, August 4th through the 6th. Log on to their website, musiccitygp.com for more information. Again, that's musiccitygp.com. As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
All right, Kelly, let's talk a little SEC football. I don't know if you watched last night. I didn't end up watching it. I mean, I'll find out the schedule. I'll look at the schedule when it comes out. I mean, I don't need analysis of it, but it was interesting. Vandy is Vandy, right? In a year where Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the SEC, they draw Texas, right? I think they'd probably rather have drawn Oklahoma, but they get Alabama at home. You got to play Tennessee, of course, and you got to play LSU on the road. I think it could have been easier. But, Kelly, I've been trying to tell this to people. It's Vanderbilt. Like Mitch said, you're never going to look at a schedule if you're Vanderbilt and say, I think we got a good draw. I like it this year. You know, you're never going to look positively at a schedule. So that's what I've kind of tried to tell people. You know, Mitch said the problem with Vanderbilt, you can't play Vanderbilt. You know, maybe Kentucky and Missouri are similar teams and similar programs that you have beaten before. But I think when you get Bama, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, South Carolina all on the same schedule, that's not going to be easy. So all I've said is good luck to Clark Lee in 2024.
Yeah, I didn't watch that stuff either. I don't understand. I understand what the big hoodoo is about Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC. I get that. Everybody wants to see where they're going to play, but they got a whole another year. We've got another football season coming up before that one. So I'm with you. You're Vanderbilt. That kind of sucks to say. Is there ever an easy schedule for Vanderbilt? No, there's not. No. I mean, that's just the way it is right now. That's the way it's going to be. My question to you guys and to you, you're a Vanderbilt guy. My question to you is, can Clark Lee get the Commodores to where James Franklin had them?
It's going to take a lot longer. Clark Lee has a different approach. Franklin was win at all costs, right. and let's win and let's try to, you know, I'm not saying go to another job, but Franklin had eyes on bigger places. Clark Lee, I think, he's going the long route, the long way. He's playing the long game. He's got a lot of former Vanderbilt players as assistants. They're doing it the right way. Not saying Franklin didn't, but obviously some bad things happened there. But yeah, I mean, I think down the road, Cal, I think realistically they get into the new stadium and they're a consistent bowl team. Now, the thing with Franklin, the SEC was down. Right, Georgia was down. Florida
Kentucky was down.
Kentucky was down. Tennessee was down bad. I mean, they got lucky there. We got a comment here. Clark inherited a way bigger mess than Franklin as well. That's true. I mean, you look at what Clark Lee inherited. Who wants to take that over? I mean, you just went 0-10, and you know, I'm not trying to get political here, but you had a female kicker. So I mean, there's just so much that went into that season. So you take over. That's true. Bobby Johnson, when Vanderbilt let go of him, they weren't in turmoil. Like Franklin had a little bit easier rebuild, and it may not have even been a rebuild. So
well, you got to think that Clark Lee is getting the facilities now with the Vandy United that James Franklin didn't get back in the day. So it seems like they're putting
he got a practice facility, but that was pretty much
they're putting their foot forward to compete and do well. You know, as a Vanderbilt fan, you got to look at that time period, though, in 2024. I know we're skipping a year, but A.J. Swan will be a junior quarterback. That's where they've done well, is when they've had a veteran quarterback in the huddle like Kyle Shermer, start all 4 years, get experience. You know, Kyle Shermer's junior and senior year, Vanderbilt was very competitive.
Successful, yeah. So, and Kelly, you said you like Swan a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think he's a really good quarterback. It's funny that you bring up Shermer. I played for his dad for a summer in Philadelphia. Pat, yeah. So he was a good guy. But let me ask y'all another question. Like, what makes it so hard for Vanderbilt? Is it because of the education part of this, trying to get guys in that fit that mold of, hey, you not only you got to be a good football player, but you have to be able to pass your classes. Is that where the struggle runs into?
I think a lot of it is the perception of Vanderbilt, and Clark Lee has talked about this. They have to weed that out. They have to circulate their program with walls that no one believes anything anybody else is saying about your program. We are insulating our walls with all positive talk. And again, that you have to do that. I mean, you can't, if you're listening to the noise, you're not going to succeed. So I think the perception has hurt them as a whole. I mean, you get a kid from the state of Tennessee, he gets an offer from Tennessee, maybe Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Vandy. They're not, let's face it, more times than not, they're not Vandy. But at the same time, Franklin was able to shift that. The perception had shifted, and it was totally different. Vanderbilt football was fun. They were selling tickets. It was fun to go to games. It was a fun environment. It was a fun product. So I think the perception is a lot of it. But David, obviously, the academic part of it, not every kid can get into Vanderbilt. So in the transfer portal, that's where I look at the portal, and they're not going to be able to get the kids that LSU can easily, right? I mean, and I think they're trying to change some things within the academic structure and in what kids can get in. But that's a little bit of, I think, perception and also academically. I mean, quite simply, Vanderbilt's not going to get the same kids everybody else is.
Yeah, and we've seen Stanford struggle recently with getting kids portal. It's hit them really hard, just the acceptance rate at the university.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see with the new facility upgrades to the stadium on the south and north end zone. I want to see how that affects the fan base as well. And are more people going to come to the game? You know, you go to a Vanderbilt game the last 2 or 3 years, it's 60-40 or 70-30 visiting
It's
teams.
like 80-20, Hoss.
Yeah, and you go to a Georgia Vanderbilt game in Nashville, it's a lot of red and black.
Yeah, that's what they have to change too. I mean, Franklin was able to take back his stadium, and they played well in front of their home crowd.
And as a recruit, you see that. They're sitting there at the 10-yard line on the Vanderbilt sideline. They see that.
Yeah.
They see the support that other teams bring into that stadium. The fan base not really showing up for Vandy. So we'll see. You know, it always changes if you got a winner. But when that 0-10 season was going on, it was
it's brutal.
empty.
That did a lot of hurt, I think, to him. So, yeah, obviously we'll keep track of Vandy, see what they do. Tennessee, real quick, Kelly, I know we've talked about Tennessee. I thought I liked their draw. You get Alabama at home, but they just beat Alabama last year. Florida at home, Kentucky at home, Mississippi State at home, and you draw Arkansas and Oklahoma. You get Oklahoma instead of Texas. I think a lot of people would have rather seen Tennessee play Texas, but I thought that was a nice draw for Tennessee.
Well, it's kind of amazing, though, if you think about it, Billy, because in 2024, it's going to be a whole new team with all this transfer portal stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about it right now. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, it's hard to talk about what's going to happen 2 seasons from now. We've got this upcoming season, and then after that, it's like free agency in the NFL. So a kid that plays really well for UT, he might decide to go somewhere else because he don't like it there. So I don't know if we can look ahead to that. I know it's good for fans. I know everybody wants to, but like, what can you tell in today's big time Power 5 football when you've got all this stuff that's going on, the transfer portal? Can you get this kid a bunch of NIL money?
Yeah.
This kid right here might want to go here, but he gets a boatload of NIL money from this other team, and he doesn't go to where he wants to go. So you never know what's going to happen from year to year now with all this stuff that's going on with the transfer portal.
Fast forward a year from now, we could be saying this Tennessee schedule's tough. I mean, maybe Arkansas takes a step forward. Maybe Oklahoma gets better quickly. I mean, you just never know.
You never know. You don't know because every year it's just like free agency in the NFL. You might not be very good, but then you get some good players and you win the conference next year. Who knows?
It's a novel concept. Yeah, I mean,
Oklahoma's boosters are not going to let that program stay down long, especially after what they had last year.
Absolutely not. They're forking out money. Those oil guys are forking out money. You better believe that now.
Yeah,
I wanted to see Texas versus Tennessee because most likely in 24, Arch Manning will be the starting quarterback for Texas, and just the argument of who's the real UT. So,
yeah, but that's another thing. Everybody's talking about Arch Manning, but we don't know that because they got that Clint Ewers kid that was a freshman last year.
He's going to be the starter this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So if he keeps playing well, you can see Arch transferring somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like if he keeps playing well and can't get on the field.
That's the thing. You never know where players are going to go. You never know where the money is going to be. And who knows? Arch Manning could be at Ole Miss.
Quinn Ewers looked really good in that Alabama game before he got hurt. He was going to lead them to a win in that game.
And if Quinn Ewers is the guy that transfers, look out because that team he lands at is going to be pretty good. So we're running up against the break. Stat of the day coming up. We got Danny Evans after that talking a little baseball. So stay tuned here on the George Plaster Show.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or Eric at rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication. And we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports, and then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general: baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. It is our favorite time of the day. It's our favorite segment. Stat of the Day presented to you by the good folks at John English Antique Sports and Cars, located in Shelbyville, Tennessee. 204 East Depot Street is where you can find them. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So give them a call at 931-492-4304. We got former Dodgers GM and baseball savant Dan Evans ready to go in the on-deck circle. I finally got him last week. Finally got him at Stat of the Day. So we'll see what happens to see if Danny can draw blood on me once again. We're going to the city of brotherly love. JT Realmuto of the Philadelphia Phillies hit for the cycle, and the Phillies lost to the Diamondbacks on Monday in Arizona. Simple as this, Danny, and I guess Kelly and Billy. Can you name the last Phillies player to hit for the cycle that was not JT Realmuto?
I think Danny's going to have this automatically.
Kelly's out.
Well, I'm just upset that you misspelled Monday.
Yeah, I saw
I
that.
did. Oh,
Monday.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay.
That's what I get when Billy doesn't check me.
That's a point off.
Let's think.
The first guy that comes to mind for me is Chase Utley. A guy like that, but
Mike Schmidt. I don't know.
Yeah, I would guess Von Hayes.
Von Hayes.
Interesting. I would like for sure that Danny's going to get this.
So Von Hayes is incorrect.
It's not. No.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Not Chase Utley either.
Danny,
Give me a second guess.
I'll give you a hint. The player is one of the current managers in the MLB.
Mm.
Ooh.
Seems like a big hint.
Yeah, it does seem like a big hint, but when your brain isn't firing off like it should.
No help. Sorry.
Kelly's out.
Yeah, Kelly, I appreciate all your help on this one. This is good.
No Plaster today, so.
Well, I would say, wow, that's a heck of a good question. I'm just trying to think of guys.
Jimmy Rollins.
He's a current manager. Jimmy Rollins isn't
not a current manager. Yeah. Wow.
Are we waving the white flag, Danny?
No, I don't wave that easily. Let me.
You, Danny.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just trying to think of the guys who play today, who that would be.
Is he a younger man? I mean, he's got to be an older manager, right?
I can't name his age. Yeah. National League Central manager.
National League Central manager?
Yes, sir.
Ooh. I'll say David Bell.
It is David Bell.
Hello. So that doesn't quite qualify for me in savant stage. I might have to hand over my crown for a week, head to the doctor, upload some more ginkgo biloba, and try to do a little bit better.
It was an off day for Danny. They'd taken a little rest. We had to wake you up a little bit. But we got Danny Evans, former Dodgers GM, with us, of course. Danny, I want to start with, of course, the Braves. And, of course, we'll get into the Oakland A's and potentially the Las Vegas A's.
Yeah.
Spencer Strider has been struggling as of late. 23 runs given up, 10 home runs in his last 6 starts. And, you know, he's been the guy before those last 6 starts. I mean, he's been phenomenal up until, you know, really the last few weeks. What do you think has gotten into him? Do you? I mean, obviously he's not injured, I don't think. But what have you seen from him, and why do you think he has sort of hit the struggle bus a little bit?
Still the guy. You don't make 32 starts and have every one of them be dominant. You just can't do that. I remember Tom Seaver saying to me once, there's 5 you hope no one ever brings up again. There's 5 that you bring up to everybody, and there's the rest of them are all in a buffet, and you just hope you give your team a chance to win. Did a little homework on Strider last night. I think the difference is command, and command of the fastball is literally hitting the glove. A lot of people mistake control for command, and they're entirely different. Command is literally hitting the glove, whereas control's within the zone. His velo is down about 4/10 of a mile an hour. The big league level, that's not going to make any difference. But he's missing with his fastball a little bit more, and he's a 2-pitch guy. And when you're a 2-pitch guy and you fall behind in the count a little bit more, and your fastball isn't quite as dominant from a command standpoint, it puts a lot of pressure on his slider to be that much better. And I think what's interesting is as off as he's been command-wise, he's still pretty darn good. I think he'll fix it. They've got some really great pitching people there in Atlanta. And this is a guy who's going to, he's going to have some ruts early in his career. He just happens to be hitting one of them right now.
Well, another player that's pretty darn good is Ronald Acuna Jr. And you start thinking, I mean, who else is even a candidate to win the MVP? I mean, it's ridiculous. So what are the odds he doesn't win? We know he's probably going to win, but what are the chances Acuna doesn't win the MVP?
Well, June 15th, you just never know what's going to happen. But, I mean, always one of my top 2 or 3 favorite players to watch. I love the flair. I love the athleticism. He's one of the few guys, maybe a dozen or so in the big leagues who can do everything. But the difference this year is the exceptional power. He's hit more balls over 450 than everybody else in the game combined. And what you've got is this maturing young man who's at the peak of his game now, and he's absolutely annihilating pitches, and they're mostly fastballs. He's just destroying balls to the middle of the ballpark. The ball he hit the other day was like 470, and you stand next to him, and you don't see 470. You see real great athleticism, but this guy's having an extraordinary year. And I think what we've seen the last couple of years, remember, he's been dinged up a little bit. Now he's full throttle, and boy, what a fun guy to watch.
He is a blast to watch. And Danny, it makes me think, is he from the Dominican Republic?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, Dominican Republic. A lot of those players, they probably didn't grow up with hitting coaches. They're playing at their, now maybe you get a handful that do and they find the right coach. But compared, it's like their swings are different. Their approach might be different. I mean, looking at Ronald Acuña's swing, it's almost like it's unconventional. He's up there and he's a ball player. He's hitting the ball, and it's almost like that's something you can't coach. So do you ever see a distinct difference between some of the Dominican players and whether they're an American player or whatever country they're from, where these guys are they play a different brand of ball?
They're different in the Caribbean, just like they're different in California and Florida. They're playing the ball 12 months a year, and they're swinging it. And in Latin America, there are no other sports. I mean, that's what they're playing. So that kid in mid-December is letting the head out on the fastball, and they hit with bottle caps and sticks. And the kids in California are the same. Think of Bo Bichette. Think of Freddie Freeman, the guys who can rake. They're usually from areas where they play year-round.
Yeah.
They hone their skills. It's not as much a taught swing. It's a swing that's found throughout their youth, and they rely on it. Many of those kids, you wouldn't want them changing their swing, because part of what makes them special is their unique let-the-head-out approach. One thing's for sure, Acuña does not get cheated within at-bats. I mean, you don't see many check swings in an Acuña plate appearance, and I just absolutely love watching him play.
All right, let's go to the American League, Danny. The Subway Series, always fun every year. Obviously, only 2 games. They split. I thought it was pretty even. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of it, but I thought the Mets did a great job of just sort of battling, hanging in there in game 2, and they got it done. But what did you learn from this Subway Series? Did you learn a whole lot about either team? I know we got Scherzer's picture up here, and obviously there was some drama last night. But what did you learn from this Subway Series?
Well, the Mets are one of the most underachieving teams in baseball in 2023, along with the Cardinals. I mean, there are a couple clubs that you honestly can't figure out what's going on. So, where they are in their 1-loss record, I expected a superior club, and that hasn't occurred. But what I saw was how much the Yankees misjudge right now, and how their top 5 hitters are really all struggling, trying to take the load off of the rest of the team. Their best 5 guys are all hitting like under 220 during that period with very limited power. Stanton and Rizzo have just cratered at the worst possible time. DJ LeMahieu's struggling. Donaldson's struggling. Torres is struggling. And when 5 of your 9 hitters are not hitting and Judge isn't playing, we talked about this last week. Just treading water is a challenge. I give them credit. They played fairly well against the Mets despite their ineptitude offensively. And, they're still going to probably make the playoffs, but it just shows you how dependent they are with Judge, as well they should be. He's clearly one of the greatest players of his generation.
Danny, feel free to call me stupid for asking this question, but is Aaron Boone on the hot seat at all?
Well, I think if you're the Yankees manager, you're always on the hot seat. But I think they've got a real stable presence in Brian Cashman, one of the people in the game I respect the most. And I think, Boone's got some holes in his team, and he's trying to achieve a postseason play in a tough division in a clearly superior league to the National League right now. I mean, I'd say 7 or 8 of the top 10 or 11 teams in the game are all playing in the American League. So he doesn't have it easy. And with the unbalanced schedule going away, the balanced schedule is beating up the Yankees a little bit because they're playing more American League teams, and there's some really good American League clubs.
Danny Evans from the Dodgers GM is with us. David, fire away.
Yeah, Danny, this will be an interesting question. On the West Coast, there's a lot of good talent out there. Corbin Carroll, his rookie year has just been phenomenal to this point. So I'm going to preface this question on this. The Marlins and the Diamondbacks are two teams that have really surprised the baseball world so far to this point in the year. Which team is more likely to sustain this success through 162 and be contender for a division title maybe?
Wow. Super question. I think, Alcantara has not thrown as well as we all expected. So I would say the D-backs right now are a little better club. They're swinging the bat, and they're swinging the bat big time, and they're running the bases and playing good defense. But I think, don't sleep on the Marlins either. Marlins are a really good club. But I would say, in answer to that question, I would say Arizona. I don't think Arizona will win that division, but I do think they're going to be a wild card team. They're awful fun to watch. If you've got a shot right now and you got a chance to watch either of those teams play right now, they're fun. But you mentioned Carroll. Carroll is exciting as can be. He can run. He's got pop. He can play, and he's going to be a really good big league player.
Yeah, to me, he's no doubt rookie of the year so far, and he will be, in my opinion. My second question is this, and I want you to put your GM hat back on for me. When it comes to a team when they're in their championship window, patience with young players is really hard. Definitely for a fan base when you're in contention for a World Series. And for the Braves, it was with Michael Harris. He had got injured early on in this year. He really struggled. He was hitting below the Mendoza line. He was hitting around 180. For the majority of the year. So I think there were a lot of concerns with him. He's turned on a hot streak really recently, definitely in Detroit, wrecking the cover off the ball, 4 for 4 yesterday. So just talk to me about patience with young players when you're a team in the championship window trying to compete for a title.
That's a super question. And, as a fan, patience is not one of the DNA strands that you practice a whole lot. You expect now. And for a general manager, I think one of the biggest things you need to bring to the table is reality check and patience. The great young players, if you believe in them, candidly, you have to go up to them sometimes and just say, hey, I believe in you. You're going to be okay. Just keep battling. I remember going to Adrian Beltre during the batting practice session in San Diego one day and saying, hey, you all right? And he's like, no, I'm afraid you're going to trade me because I'm playing so poorly. So I'm never trading you. It's never going to happen. You're going to be the third baseman here for as long as I'm here. And he just went off after that. But I think as a fan, fans don't practice patience. And they don't realize what goes through a manager or a general manager's mind, because you need to practice patience because you have so few assets of that talent level. Harris is a great example. Harris is a terrific player, and he's scorching right now. But for an extended period, I was reading things, maybe they should send him down or bench him. A guy like that doesn't get better without plate appearances. And boy, they're sure happy they didn't sit him down.
Yeah, and this is my last question. Appreciate you taking them. The Padres, the Mets, and the Cardinals, 3 teams really struggling in the National League, to say the least. A lot of boo birds out in St. Louis the last few nights when they're playing the Giants. Which team do you feel can turn it around easier than the other two, if you had to pick?
San Diego. I think San Diego has such an elite group of veteran players. They're probably just figuring themselves out right now. And sometimes, we talked about this a few weeks ago, expectations become barricades to success. I think they're going to have a good second half. I think they're going to be a wild card team. I don't think they're going to win the West, but I think the resurgence of the Diamondbacks and, lost in all this, the Giants have been playing fabulous baseball for the last month and a half. They're on a 95 win pace if you look at their performance from May 1st forward. So I think it's going to be tougher for the Padres to win than ever before, but I think their talent's better. A couple of weeks ago, I thought the Cardinals were starting to turn it around, and I thought the Cardinals might still win the Central. I just don't see that happening right now. It just looks as though it's just not their year.
Danny Evans, former Dodgers general manager. Of course, a lot of baseball knowledge, too much baseball knowledge for us. We've got more with Danny coming up. Kelly Holcomb will fire some questions at Danny, so stay with us here on the George Plaster Show.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome back to the George Plaster Show. Danny Evans, former Dodgers general manager, talking a little baseball with us. And obviously the College World Series is coming up this weekend up in Omaha. Always a great event. And there was a pitcher this past weekend that threw almost 160 pitches. And Kelly, I know you want to ask Danny about that.
Well, I mean, is that too much in today's you don't ever hear about that. I mean, when I was growing up, I can remember that, Nolan Ryan, he would pitch a bunch of field Negros. They wanted to stay out there. They were competitive. They wanted to stay on the mound. But nowadays, you don't see that. You've got a starter. You've got a middle reliever. You've got a closer. So do you think in today's world that's too many pitches?
Gosh, Kelly, good question. I think what I've learned starting with Herm Schneider, the White Sox, and Frank Joba, the Dodgers, in the last 25 years, every guy's different. There's guys who can throw 90 pitches and they're done.
Yeah.
There's guys who can throw 120, and it's not just athletically, it's just their body. Some guys recover better than others. I'm sure you had teammates that could play on Wednesday and others who couldn't play till Saturday. And, and one thing I think we all forget is that with today's tech, and the Stanford left-handed pitcher is surrounded by some of the best technology in the game. I mean, the Cardinals do a great job off the field prepping their players medically. They know things about him that we don't know, and they know how he responds. The other thing, Kelly, and I was thinking about this the night it happened, and I'm not taking a slap at the kid. I'm just being honest. When you know that this might be the biggest game you ever play, you may not pitch in the big leagues. You may not get drafted. A kid like that, that's his World Series. And they needed to win that game to advance. I'm sure the head coach, the pitching coach, a lot of people went to him, and the kid went out there. Not only did he succeed and pitch well, but Kelly, they advanced and they went to Omaha. So let's see how he does in his next outing. But I really believe some kids reach a point where they go, hey, you know what? This is my moment. I may never have a bigger moment than that in my career. And if I'm a 22-year-old with a sore shoulder, I'll take my chance. But there's a hidden element to this, Kel. Imagine if you're the parent or you're a kid who's a top pitching prospect throughout the country right now. And Stanford's one of your choices. You're looking at Stanford and you're asking a lot of questions because you want to make sure that your kid doesn't have any issues. I will say this. I'm hoping like heck the kid goes out and pitches great in Omaha, and I hope he doesn't have any career issues because it'll be perseverance and it'll be rising to the moment in a critical situation.
Will you see that again in the major leagues? I mean, because as a manager, you're sitting over there and you're the general manager. I'm sure you're upset if that's happening, but a manager's got to be sweating in the dugout because he's talking to his pitching coach. But man, this is getting crazy right here. 156 pitches.
Nobody's done that, Kelly, in almost 20 years in the big leagues.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're so ingrained to the big league game that, Nolan Ryan throwing 220 pitches in a 14-inning game, for those of us who remember that, we can't fathom that happening in today's game. When the kid was on the mound the other day and I saw the pitch count, very honestly, when I first switched in and I was being a real crazy, I had 4 games going on at one time, and I saw him, I said, that's got to be a typo. Has to be a typo. And then they started talking about it, and I thought, for his sake and for the program's sake, I hope he pitches well. But I also wondered, some travel team coach, some high school coach, another college coach might be looking at this and saying, hey, maybe I can do this and risk injury to a kid down the line. But as I first stated when you asked the question, everybody's different.
Yeah.
And I've seen guys throw 120 and be fine 4 days later. And I've seen guys throw 75 and struggle without that last day of rest.
Right. Absolutely. So, okay. So I've been wanting to ask you this for weeks and I hadn't gotten to the opportunity. GM. We've all seen the movie Moneyball, and I know that was probably sensationalized. Have you not seen it? Okay. So
never saw it, never read the book. I don't have a lot of respect for people who give away secrets.
There you go. So my deal is this: were you a hands-on GM? Because in the movie it showed that he wasn't really he didn't like to go to the games. He would always do something else. Were you a hands-on GM? Because you just talked about Carlos Beltran, and you talked about you talking to him. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that some GMs are different. I'm sure there's some guys that want to be around everything, go to practice, do all that stuff. And I'm sure some guys are wanting to be, back, and they want to stand back. So what kind of GM were you?
Super question, Kelly. I was very collaborative. I felt that if I hired the right people and let them do their job, we would succeed. And most of the time we did. I didn't micromanage. I didn't tell the scouting director who to take in the draft. I contributed, but sometimes somebody has to make the final call, and I did. What I did do, Kelly, and as a former athlete, I think you might hear this different. I never went in the clubhouse after a win, ever. I learned that from my first boss, because nobody needs the GM or the assistant GM when you win. Right. Let everybody enjoy their moment. I think when you come in, you take some of the air out of the room. You suffocate people a little bit because they're worried, why is he in here? After a loss, I always went in, and I always went to the guy who most needed a little love. And, the guy who made the error, gave up the hit, and I would go up to him, and I'd have a little fun, but I would also say something like, hey, Kelly, come on, you've carried us all year. Don't worry about it, okay?
That's cool.
We're all going to have one of those. And I did the same thing to the coaches, the manager. If a manager butchered a play, I'd go in before the media, and I'd say, hey, Kelly, when the media comes in, you're going to have an answer for why you didn't do X. Just think that through. What was the reason? Kelly, I just think if you're hands-on to the point where you're controlling, people can't be as vibrant and as contributing if they're looking over their shoulder. I wanted them to be evaluated for their actual decision-making. The collaborative nature, sure, sometimes I'm going to have to make the call, but most of the time the call doesn't get to the GM. And because of that, even when I was an assistant GM, I encouraged people to do as much as they could on their own and let me be more at 30,000 feet than right there in the room.
Man, that's some good stuff. That's some real good stuff. I like that. So let's expand on that. And I've lost my train of thought, but obviously being a GM this time of year, I just saw where the trade deadline's coming up, and I don't know, I'm sure you experienced it. But is there a certain time, because we're all competitive and we all don't want to give up, but there's certain times, like you look at what the Cardinals are doing right now. They're really bad. So would they have wholesale trades? I mean, would they be looking to get new things? You see what I'm saying? Like get something else. Like how many times were you in that position? Is this a fun time of year for you? Or was this a dreadful time of year for you because, hey, we're not very good right now, so we need some more players, or we're really good, we don't need anything?
Great question. I was in that position for about 35 years.
Yeah.
And I will say it's a great time of the year, but it's also a consuming time of the year. Okay. You have to be the rudder because you can't let one loss. Remember, Kelly, we're playing 6 or 7 days a week in baseball.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a week away from being in or out of the race. So what you do, here we are in mid-June. If you are a potential buyer or a potential seller, you've already got your scouts out there. You've got your player development people out there looking at potential deals. You have your major league scouts looking at trades, but also going in your own organization to make sure those young players that you might be talking about from your team, make sure you're not an oversight. Make sure you're not moving somebody who might come back to haunt you. Kelly, it's invigorating. It's exciting. One of my kids once said to me, and it was devastating. She said, Dad, you've never been home for my birthday.
Oh.
And I looked her in the eye and I went, oh my God, I am so sorry. But I couldn't change it. It was late July and that's the crazy time of the year. But Kelly, that's one of the demands on your time that it's really wild. You sometimes lose. I remember going to Colorado on a series, and I had Post-it notes all over my hotel room with possible trades. And it was time for the team bus. And I said, wait a second, why am I going to the game? I can watch the game on the TV here in Colorado and I want to flush out my stuff in front of me on the board. So I had all these Post-it notes. So the manager calls me about a half hour later. He goes, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best deal. Where do I need to improve things here and there?" And he goes, "What about the game?" And I said, "Hey, the Dodgers have played for 100 years without me. They're going to play tonight without me too. So we win." Yeah. And he comes back, knocks on my hotel door. He goes, I don't know if I want you there tomorrow night. We played really well." And I just laughed. I said, "No, you're stuck with me tomorrow." Now I kind of have a better feel. But Kelly, you get consumed. And it's not healthy for your own benefit, but it's really an important time for I would say for the blood flow of the franchise.
Yeah, but if you're going to be successful, though, Danny, you've got to be consumed. Do you know? I mean, you kind of have to be consumed, especially with where you were at. I got to be a start. You have to be consumed with that. You have to be willing to work at it. And some guys are, and some guys aren't.
Yeah, Kelly, you're so right. And I was. I mean, and I look back now, and I'm like, I talked to a GM friend of mine earlier this morning, and I said, "I'll be honest with you." I said, "I don't miss that being consumed." But here's one thing, Kelly, and I think you're on a great track. Here's one of the problems you go through is the rest of your organization continues to run. Everything's going on. So you need to be really good at delegating and really great at communicating. You need to say, "Hey, listen, for the next 45 days, I can't go to those meetings. That's not something I can do." But Kelly, there's one more step, and I experienced it. Time zone, and it matters.
Oh, yeah.
Being on the West Coast, I was with the Mariners, I was with the Dodgers. Being on the West Coast is great because all the games are over when your game's over. You can go home, go to sleep, and you're good. On the East Coast and the Central Time Zone, when your game's over, you still have 2 or 3 hours of baseball left. All the rumors that are on the other side of the country, I found that to be debilitating.
Oh.
When I was on the West Coast, it was like, all right, it's 11 o'clock. I can go home now, clear thought, and start making phone calls at 6:30 in the morning. I remember one time I made a trade when I was taking my kids to school, and it was hysterical. It was like, all right, something's wrong with this picture, but it's part of the magic of the game.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Danny. Thanks for taking my crazy questions, man. I'm sure Billy's he may have one more. I don't know.
Yeah, I got one more for you, Danny. I'm a big college guy. I cannot wait for the College World Series this weekend. If you put yourself in a scout's shoes, say you're a scout, you're looking forward to this weekend, you're going to Omaha. Who are a couple guys you're really excited, you can't wait to watch this weekend?
Well, I consult for a couple teams, so I don't think that would be appropriate for me to do that. I'm going to stay away from that, but I will say this. There's probably as many elite players in the College World Series as there has been in a decade. So Omaha and all of us who watch, we're going to really love the level of talent. But Bill, another really cool thing is the draft is pushed back now for the last few years. And as a result, these kids aren't playing for the draft, which was the case for so long. It took place the first or second day of the College World Series, so disruptive. Yeah. And I think it harnessed and handcuffed a lot of kids. The draft's still a month away. So I think what you'll see is the really talented kids, they're going to be loose and they're going to be ready to play. But I think what we're seeing is just an elite class at Omaha. And I think it's great for the college game as a result. And some of the big boys, and I call them the big boy programs, them being in Omaha is great for the sport.
No doubt. David, you got one?
Final thing for you, Danny. Appreciate you joining us. I just want you to give me your bird's eye view of the American League Central. Only one team above 500 is Minnesota, and they're just 2 games above. Minnesota's in first place. You got Chicago, who's in third place, who's 30-39, with only 5.5 games out of the first place. Just give me your opinion on that division.
What's wrong with the water in the Central Division of both leagues? I mean, there's a couple teams that are playing at or just a little bit above 500. The AL Central is going to be the Twins. The run differentials of the other 4 teams are just awful. I thought Detroit might have a chance, but they're going to lose 90-plus games. There's no way they're going to contend. But it's really weird to see the two central divisions in the two leagues sputter as badly as they are. I don't know what's going on. They've had early draft picks from a considerable number of those teams, but they're just not doing it. And I think as a result, the balanced schedule is causing the East and West divisions of both leagues to feed on those Central Division teams in both leagues.
Yeah, I don't see how you pick a winner in the National League Central. Milwaukee's banged up. I've nicknamed that they're the Milwaukee Sounds because all the Nashville Sounds players up in Milwaukee. My heart wants to say Pittsburgh because that's a really good fan base. They love their team and they're a contender, but it's just hard.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think a wild card's coming out of there. I think all three wild card teams are going to come from the West in the National League. So you're playing for everything, and you're going to be the third seed. So that really beats you up in the playoffs. You're gonna be in a tough spot. But I think what we've got in the NL Central is some real underachievers. But I love what the Pirates are doing, and I will never look at the Brewers with Counsell as their manager and ever expect them to do anything but overperform, because Counsell is one heck of a good manager. I think we're going to see a fun race that's going to be won with like 82 or 83 wins.
Can't wait. Can't wait. All-Star break is just around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. Danny, George will be back next week, so don't worry. You won't be stuck with me again next week, but I appreciate you taking the time.
I'm going to get some sleep on Wednesday night next week, so I'm a little better on my stat of the day question.
There we go. You'll get it right for George. That's what matters.
I love it. Guys, have a great week. Enjoy.
Thanks, Danny. You too. That's Danny Evans. Never disappoints, former Dodgers general manager. And George, his bets of the day never disappoint, but I disappointed last night. So that was a loss. I went against the Braves, and the baseball gods bit me right back. So we'll review that, and we'll see what I'm going with tonight. Try to bounce back here on the George Plaster Show.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Welcome back in. Final segment on a Throwback Thursday. You like that one, Billy?
I like that one. Throwback Thursday.
Billy's Bet of the Day presented to you by the good folks at Bart Durham Injury Law Firm. They are, simply put, the best in the business. They are lawyers you can trust. So give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. And for Billy last night, he learned his lesson. He went against the Bravos, and he lost.
I should have known. How dare I go against the Braves, George and David's Braves, my Braves. Although I'm not. I'm only a Brave. I'm a Braves fan. I'm a Braves fan, but I'm not as dialed in the first part of the regular season as these guys are.
I'll tell you this: I was nervous about that game because of Dylan Dodd pitching,
and I took
coming
your
up from
advice.
AAA.
Because Dodd, they sent him right back down after the game.
Billy, it wasn't a blowout game. It was 6-5. It
was a close game.
Really close game.
Yeah.
So
I went against the Braves. That's what happens, Kelly.
He never learns, does he? Just wait.
Yeah, he should have threw that pick back. Is what he should have done since it's Throwback Thursday.
Yeah,
that's
just
all
wait till
I
you
ask.
see this game tonight when I explain what happens. Go ahead, Billy.
Okay, tonight I'm going to go with the Rangers minus 130. And yes, I know Shohei Ohtani is pitching tonight, but the Rangers also have Eovaldi, one of the best pitchers in the league.
Really
pitching.
good.
And it's weird. You have your guy on the mound in Shohei Ohtani, but the Rangers are one of the better teams in the league right now too. Like, don't forget about the Rangers.
They're probably one of the hottest teams.
Yeah,
they're not slipping either. That's the thing about it. They're not slipping. Like the Astros are behind them, but they're not. Everybody thought they would slip, but they're not.
Yeah.
What they do is they score runs. I mean, you could name multiple players on their team that should be in the All-Star game. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Dolis Garcia, Jonah Heim. The list goes on and on. They rake.
Studs.
They rake.
And I'm going with their bats against Shohei Ohtani. I think they get out into the bullpen against Ohtani, and I think the Rangers win it minus 130 tonight. So that's what I'm going with. Kelly, you get tomorrow off. Have fun if you do golf. If you don't, just enjoy the fellowship. I'm sure it's always good getting back with those guys. We'll get George back in here next week, and we'll keep rolling.
Real quick, Kelly, give Billy a letter grade on his 3-day hosting performance.
I think Billy's done well. He's done really well. He really has.
The first time, I'll admit, there were definitely some mistakes in there, but I think I'm fine.
I didn't think the first time was bad either, though. I mean,
it was bad. It was just kind of, you could tell.
You're experienced at doing this stuff, man. You're good at it.
Appreciate it. That means a lot. How'd David do? I thought David did well too as the producer.
David's done well, man. I like the way y'all tag team those questions. I didn't think I was going to get to ask any questions, which I'd have been fine with, because my questions that I asked Danny are off the wall. He's like, I got to go on here with this cat again, dude.
We need a Kelly's bet of the day.
Yeah, Kelly texted me after he thought the segment was ending, I guess, and he was like, "Hey, I'm good. Y'all keep rolling. I'm good with these."
Keep rolling, dude, because y'all are asking good questions. I just have to ask him questions. Like I'm not a savant baseball guy like you guys are.
The savant, I like it.
Yeah.
The paisan. That's what Danny is. He's got.
I can't believe you missed that of the day. That's 2 weeks in a row. That's unlike him.
When
He's
George
really
is
good,
back,
though. He's really good. Like I can imagine him being a general manager and coming in. He would be the guy that you would want in that position, because if he actually did that, which I'm sure he did, he said he did. That's something for a general manager to come to talk to a player like that. That's really cool.
It is cool. You don't get that all the time. I mean, I thought back, I wanted to ask him, and I'm going to ask him with this one show about Moneyball. How accurate is that? Would you compare
He hasn't seen it. You heard him say he hadn't seen it, right?
Were you not paying attention to Kelly's question? He asked that question.
I asked that question. He don't watch it. He didn't watch it. He hasn't watched it or read the book.
I forgot. So he hasn't seen it.
No, because he said he don't like giving out secrets like that. He's not fond of people giving out secrets like that.
That one was Hollywood.
Okay, I totally missed that.
Sensationalized a little bit.
Man, okay, that's my bad.
Come on, Billy. We were just
it is your bad.
Grow up, Kelly.
Grow up.
Kelly, thanks, man. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for the George Plaster Show. Coming up tomorrow, we will broadcast live from First Horizon Park in Nashville for the Sounds game tomorrow. Gwinnett Striper's still in town, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. Big show for myself, Billy Derrick, David Wilson, and Kelly Holcomb. You've been watching the George Plaster Show live from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue.